Okay, let's get into this. The sources you shared make it pretty clear space isn't just, exploration anymore. It's really becoming this uh, contested global arena, a new frontier for competition, maybe even conflict.
Exactly. And these materials, they paint a stark picture of where Europe fits in or maybe doesn't fit in right now. They use this quite powerful metaphor, Janus, the two-faced Roman god. It suggests Europe's really at a crossroads, looking back but also facing this, well, uncertain future in space.
Janus. That's evocative. So, her goal here in this deep dive is to unpack what these sources are telling us. What are Europe's challenges? And crucially, where are the opportunities as this whole new space race accelerates? What's the big picture globally, according to the sources?
Well, what really jumps out is the speed, the sheer acceleration, and the focus of the big players. The U.S. and China are clearly leading the charge. China, the sources note, has these very explicit long-term ambitions, aiming for dominance by 2049. You see it with programs like Tiangong, their space station, which is operational now, and Chang'e, their lunar program, really gunning for a permanent moon base, and Tianwen for Mars, looking at sample return pretty soon by 2030.
And the U.S. side seems just as driven. The sources highlight Artemis, getting humans back to the moon, staying there this time. And they lean heavily on these public-private partnerships. SpaceX comes up a lot. They mention an almost unbelievable launch rate planned for 2025, 180 Falcon launches, 25 Starship tests. That number alone feels like a different league.
It really does. And the materials don't mince words. They explicitly call space a potential battlefield. They point to Ukraine, saying control over satellite data, comms, observations, and it directly influences the war on the ground. It's called contested territory, the, quote, new high ground. And we should also mention India is really stepping up its game too, the sources say.
Okay, so that's the fast-moving global scene. Where does Europe actually sit in all this, based on what these sources found?
Yeah, that's where the picture gets, well, concerning. They suggest Europe is currently lagging behind in several key ways. Spending per citizen is one stark example, just 26 euros. Compare that to, what, 8 times more in the U.S., twice as much in Japan. And Europe's slice of the pie, both global space budgets and the commercial market, it's shrunk significantly, down from nearly 15% just 5 years ago to only 6% now.
And it sounds like the market European companies can access is also getting smaller, blocked by, politics, commercial pressures, strategy.
That's right. And tied to that, investment in space security and defense is just much, much lower. The U.S. defense budget puts about 9% towards space, Europe only 3%. And get this. Over the last 20 years, the U.S. launched 8 times more mass for defense purposes than Europe did. Plus, there's this internal issue the sources raise fragmentation. Governance is spread thin across loads of different agencies, different ministries.
Right, a lot of cooks, maybe. But it's not all negative, surely. The sources do acknowledge Europe has real strengths.
Oh, absolutely, and that's critical. Europe is a leader in specific, very important areas. Programs like Copernicus for Earth observation, Galileo for navigation. They're genuinely world-class, the sources confirm that. And Europe has a solid track record in deep space missions, excellent manufacturing capabilities too.
Okay, so the tech, the know-how, the hardware, as they put it, is there. But the sources seem to argue the real problem isn't the physical stuff.
Exactly. They frame it as Europe needing to shift from just being technically good to being strategically decisive, acting like a real power in space. The gap isn't the hardware, they argue. It's the political software, the willpower, the cohesion.
Interesting distinction. So if that's the diagnosis, what's the prescription? What pillars do the sources say Europe needs to build up?
They lay out 4 main pillars. First, and maybe most fundamental, is autonomous launch access. Reliable, homegrown launchers like Ariane 6 and Vega. That needs coordinated policy, serious investment.
Makes sense. Pillar 1, launch independence. What's next?
Second, really leveraging those Earth observation strengths, Copernicus especially, but integrating it fully for dual civil and military use, and exploring newer tech like VLEO missions, flying much closer to Earth for potentially better observation.
Okay, Earth observation, dual use. Pillar 3.
Secure SATCOM and navigation, building out robust multi-orbit systems. They mentioned IRIS-2 for secure comms, enhancing Galileo, maybe with its secure PRS signal, or exploring low Earth orbit PNT options. And alongside that, much better space situational awareness, knowing what's up there.
Right, knowing the environment. And the final pillar.
Orbital and planetary operations, getting good at things like hypervelocity flight, getting close to other satellites for servicing or repair proximity ops, building bigger things in orbit, and carving out a role in that Earth-Moon space, the cislunar ecosystem. I mentioned the Moonlight program, maybe for lunar comms or navigation.
No, launch, observation, comms nav, and in-space operations. Beyond those, the sources talk about industry and governance.
Yes, big emphasis on reindustrialization,
Right.
building resilient supply chains, focusing on dual-use tech, AI, cyber, advanced propulsion, and sorting out that fragmented governance. Maybe a unified framework. They even float the idea of a new Space Act.
This all sounds urgent. Do the sources give a timeline?
They're very clear. 2025 is absolutely crucial.
Especially that ESA ministerial meeting in November. They call it a moment for a historic decision.
Absolutely. And the stakes are laid out plainly. Europe's strategic autonomy, its political relevance globally, economic growth, technological leadership, it's all on the line. They put it bluntly. Europe can't ask permission to be relevant. It has to choose to be decisive. And that needs private money coming in alongside more public funds.
Wow. And they end with that stark quote from the new EU Commissioner for Defense and Space. Who controls space controls the future.
So this deep dive really shows Europe at that Janus moment, doesn't it? Caught between its past achievements and this urgent need to define its future role.
Yeah, and that future, based on these sources, isn't guaranteed. It seems it needs to be actively seized. Needs political will, industrial vision, working together.
So the question these sources leave us with really is, as this new space era accelerates, what does this critical juncture for Europe mean for the continent and maybe for you watching it all unfold? Something to think about.